Welcome back. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Toronto Committee of Adjustment, Scarborough District. We are in our afternoon session, and today is August 18, 2022. Due to COVID-19, Committee of Adjustment public hearings are being conducted virtually by electronic means through WebEx, webinar, and online digital platform, and is streamed onto the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx webinar, which is moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on the YouTube channel. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer, tablet, smartphone, or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. All participants will automatically be muted upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. We ask that you also mute your devices until you're called on to speak. Those participating by video appearance will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when your item is being held. During this time, your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. Members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Before we begin, we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and the Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to a property, permissions to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consents to sever property to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and an email address because the Committee of Adjustment and the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal or the OLT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. In terms of the hearing procedure, I will call each item in the order that's listed on the agenda today. In terms of making your submissions, where an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you're reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters that have been outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposal at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it is substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or in opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. We are here to listen to your concerns. However, repeating the same comments will not advance your cause. If there are a number of speakers, we request that you select a spokesperson to advise the committee of the issues and the concerns. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. After all the speakers are finished and the applicant and the agents have the opportunity to rebut the comments that were raised, and after that, the discussion will end. For the afternoon session, we are going to be hearing items 18 to 23 as listed on the agenda. Before we begin the first item, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, do we have any requests for deferral for the afternoon session?
Through the chair, there's one request for deferral. It's item 21, 74 Westbourne. It's a deferral to the September 15th hearing due to insufficient notice. A separate public hearing notice will be issued and mailed out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer. Staff, can we please have Ida Evangelista online? Hello, Ida.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members. On behalf of the owners of 74 Westbourne Avenue, we are asking for deferral as file number A383. The bylaw is incorrectly stated. So now staff have put us on the September 15th hearing date. It's all being corrected, and we're moving forward on the 15th.
All right, thank you very much, Ida, for confirming that. Members of the committee, do you have any concerns with the request for deferral? I see none. All right, if there are no concerns, can I please have a motion for deferral? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
So I'll move, Madam Chair, a deferral to provide for sufficient notice, and my motion would be to defer to the September 15th, 2022 hearing.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second this motion.
And all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been deferred. And this was item number
21.
22, yes, thank you. Okay, staff has some comments here. All right, thank you very much. Now that we've dealt with the deferral request, I want to ask if there are any declarations of interest of panel or staff for the items that are listed in the afternoon session. I see none. All right, thank you, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, for reminding me, and I assume there are no further requests for deferral. Correct, okay.
Through the chair, that's correct.
All right, thank you. So we will now move to the first item on this time slot for the purposes of vetting. So item 18 is 5 Bonita Road. And I note that there are neighbors who have registered to speak in opposition. So I will hold down this item and come back to it in the main body of the meeting to discuss this. And this matter is being held. So item number 18 for 5 Bonita Road is being held for further discussion. Thank you. Item number 19 is 3525 St. Clair Avenue East, and there are no registered speakers. May I request the agent, Peter Jerusik, to be online, please? Hello, Peter.
Hello, it's Peter Jerusik here from Arc Design Group.
All right, thank you, Peter, for joining us this afternoon. We have your application before us. This is item 19 at St. Clair Avenue East. There are no registered speakers here. Just want to confirm with you. Do you have a copy of all the recommended conditions from urban forestry as well as engineering?
We do.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, do you have any questions on this application at this time? This is a consent application and 2 associated minor variance application. I see none. All right. If there are no further questions or comments and the committee is prepared to move forward with the motion, can I please have it? And conditions have been confirmed that the applicant is aware of those conditions. Yes, Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will address consent application first. I recommend approval of the consent application for 3525 St. Clair Avenue East, subject to conditions of development engineering and urban forestry. this meets all the tests of the Planning Act and appears appropriate for this a part of the municipality. It's similar to other lots in the area on the south side of St. Clair Avenue.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. May I have a
That is
second?
the,
May I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion, subject to the condition as stated.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the consent application for 3525 St. Clair Avenue East has been approved, subject to conditions. Now we can move the motion on the associated minor variance applications. Yes, Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I move approval of the two variance applications, A115221 SC and A015321 SC. They provide the frontage and lot changes and a couple of other minor changes to the zoning bylaw. They appear to be appropriate to the development of the area and will fulfill the approval of the consent application.
Thank you very much. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
I second this motion, Madam Chair.
All right, all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the minor variance applications for 3525 St. Clair Avenue East have been approved. Thank you. We now go to our next application, 138 Westbourne Avenue. Again, there are no speakers registered to speak on this, but we do have the agent, Mr. Peter Jerusik again. Peter.
I'm still here.
Okay, excellent. So Peter, we have your application and I suppose you've seen the recommended conditions of approval from Urban Forestry and Engineering Services?
We have.
Okay. Members of the committee, any questions? Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Peter, I have my concerns on the lots which you are proposing to be created in the consent application. The lot size you are proposing, both the lot size are quite short in terms of their frontage as far as the lot area is concerned. So how would you address that?
In terms of the development of this area, this whole neighborhood, this lot pattern is very consistent throughout the whole neighborhood, which have been approved. In looking into this neighborhood itself, several corners have been approved, and myself have received approval for those type of corners. So the lot pattern itself and lot sizes, lot frontages, is consistent with the two houses to the north of us as well, where those lots as well were 50-foot lots, same depth, and they were approved. So that would be 140 and 142, just directly north of us. Both were approved. In addition, several applications that I've had myself on Bexhill, on Westbourne, they were all exactly the same lot configurations, which were permitted to be divided up into this into this lot pattern, especially on Pitt Avenue, which is just 2 streets down, and it's a corner off that same road, has been severed in the same manner. So it is plausible, it is doable, and has been done in this neighborhood under the same zoning patterns.
Mr. Peter, if the lot pattern is same, exactly like for 140?
140, 142, those were all 50-foot lots divided. 57 Westbourne, 75 Westbourne, 25 Westbournes were all 50-foot lots divided. And then on Pitt Avenue, which is also a corner lot, 135 and 137, that was a corner lot off of Dawes, identical lot pattern as this one.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Staff?
Through the chair, just to clarify in the materials that you have, the applicant has requested for the minor variance applications modifications to reduce the lot coverage to 41.1% and to eliminate the building length variance. It's in the materials under the minor variance applications, and we could put it on the screen right now.
Okay, so, okay, here's the thing. I'm reading the agenda. So, member Said, I didn't want to interrupt you, and I thought maybe it was a quick question. Do you want to park this and come back for further discussion, or are you satisfied?
I'm satisfied, and we can go ahead with the decision, Madam Chair.
Okay, perfect. So that was your concern or question of clarification related to the consent application, and now staff have flagged for us that there are some modified variances, correct? And we can have it on the screen?
Correct. The question was only for the consent application.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Member Said. So where is this in the agenda? Is it the,
It's under the minor variance applications, correspondence, revised plans, and
oh, I see.
variances.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay, so it's under the revised plans and variances. So it's the elimination of variance number 7.
And the reduction of variance number 5.
Correct. Okay, all right. So that's on the screen before us. There's been an amendment, which was also included in the agenda. So should committee wish to proceed with a motion on this, please know that it's an amended application as presented. Okay, all right. If there are no further questions, can I please have a motion? We're reading the agenda unless someone has a pressing reason to hold this. I'm looking for a motion. Member Said, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With that elaboration by Mr. Peter about the lot pattern in the area, I am okay with that. I move the motion for approval of consent application B0044/21SC, subject to the urban forestry condition as well as the engineering services conditions.
And the standard conditions of consent.
Standard conditions of consent. Thank you.
Thank you. And may I have a seconder, please? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
I second Member Said's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And all in favor of this motion? The application has been approved, and the application has been approved subject to conditions and as amended as it relates to the minor variance applications. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 22 5 Lamont Avenue, and we have Peter again. Peter.
When it rains, it pours.
It does, it does. All right, Peter, so we
Sir?
have, yes,
We haven't dealt with the variances.
oh, was that just the consent?
I
I'm
believe so.
sorry, I'm sorry.
If we dealt with the variances, I'm fine with that. I just thought we'd only dealt with the consent.
I thought we had. Member Said, can you confirm if your motion included the
Thank you.
variances?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, actually, when I finish my motion, you confirm that it's both consent and minor variance application. But I can I go back to that and move my motion for approval of the minor variance application, both of them, A0251 and A0252, for approval as amended.
Okay, all right, so the motion did include consent and the minor variance application, so it's been dealt with. You're satisfied, Member Macaulay?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you. Now, sometimes I need that. When I'm looking at multiple things, sometimes I do tend to skip. So thank you for keeping me on track. 5 Lamont Avenue, Peter Jurusik. We have your application for the consent and associated minor variance application as well. And once again, have you had a chance to look at the conditions from urban forestry?
Yes, I
Actually,
have.
this time there's no conditions of engineering.
Correct. Yes, I've reviewed all the comments, and we're fine with the conditions.
Okay, I just want to ask staff one thing. So in this situation, Colin, where there are no conditions of engineering services, would we still have standard conditions of consent?
Through the chair, that's correct. And you do not need to request the standard conditions. I was talking to someone else, but are you dealing with item 22 right now?
That is correct.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so no engineering conditions, just urban forestry. Members of the committee, do you have any questions at this time for this application, item 22? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Just a quick question dealing with this property. There's a bell easement that certainly impacts the development of these lands. To the applicant, have you determined whether that bell easement is still necessary?
There's a large bell line going under it to facilitate the commercial projects directly behind us, so it is required. That's why our entire dwelling is outside of that.
Okay, I noticed that you have amended your variances to accommodate that, but I wasn't sure whether it was still necessary. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Member Macaulay. So if there are no further questions or clarification, can I have a motion, and this time consent? We could separate, or you could deal with them together. So, Member Said, you had your hand up?
Can I ask a question from Mr. Jurassic, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Jurassic, I am again looking at the size of the lots you are proposing, and this time these are really short, almost 50% less than the one which should be required. And I am looking at the lot patterns as well. I Googled the street map, so this time I really need your help to understand about why these sizes are proposed and how you justify this small size of the lots in terms of frontage and lot area.
Now, these lots are 12 meters. So in terms of what a small lot is, it is for Scarborough standards, 12 meters is not small. But the requirements here are lots as of the day of enactment of the bylaw. That's why it is whatever the bylaw was. We're requesting a 50% reduction. Now, I'd like to point attention, I don't know if it's been built or not, but directly across the street from us, 8 Lamont has been approved for severance, exactly the same, half its lot size, which is 12 meters. So this is a pattern now that is beginning in this neighborhood. In addition, we are subject to this easement, and we're surrounded with commercial and high density. So I do understand that the prevailing lot patterns south of us are 24, but this is an area in transition. As you can see on the map in front of that she just posted, the lot directly in front of us has been severed and is in the process of being redeveloped. So the committee has been through this a similar application in the neighborhood, and we are following suit in terms of what is now a dynamic neighborhood and in change. Also, on the south end of Lamont, there are smaller lots, and being that we're surrounded with commercial, the majority of our neighbors are commercial buildings, so we're not creating any additional nuisance in the division of these lands for them. And then the one at 9, we are buffered by a large easement, larger than normal, being almost 3.66 meters. So looking at the dynamic nature of the community, it is trending towards these severances, has been approved across, and hopefully by the blessing of the committee today, our lot as well.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Member Said, does that satisfy your question or concern?
Well, there are certain points I agree, yes, their transition is always there. You talk about the area is very dynamic, it's covered by the commercial areas, and these changes are coming in the future. But I was asking about the lot patterns, and perhaps the only one you mentioned, which is again not sure, that is the lot which comes into the same size. But even if it is there, that is the only one at this point of time. When I say this lot is small, I'm not comparing it with the whole Scarborough saying this is a small lot. I am comparing it with what is required in that particular area under that bylaws, right? So I'm comparing it with that, I'm just looking at the Google map, looking up and down in the street. There are bungalows, there are big lots. approving this lot by this size can set up a transition or set up a pattern in future, which may or may not be uh, positive. This is my opinion. Yes, of course, I am open for, as far as you said, it's a transition field and we can see the changes, but
So I want
I
to
have my
remind, I'm sorry, I'm
concerns.
going to interrupt you. We're vetting this agenda right now. We're not discussing. If you want to hold this down and have more discussion, I'm prepared to do that, but you have to let me know. Member Macaulay, you want to say something?
I had some comments. This is one of the sites that I did go out and take a look at because of Mr. Sayed's issues, and I wanted to assure myself that I was in agreement with the consent application. I can comment on that, or we can hold it and we finish the vetting process.
Member Said, do you want to hold this for further discussion?
I am fine with that. As I told you, I am not totally
Okay.
against or totally in favor, but I'm okay to proceed further, Madam Chair.
Okay to proceed with the decision?
Yes, please. I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right. Member Macaulay?
And with that, I'll proceed to propose or to start. Let me comment for a minute because it has been raised. I did go out and look at this street. I did remember after seeing the street that we had approved the consent and the variances for the two lots almost immediately across the street here. At the south end of Lamont, there are smaller lots. So it is an area that is changing. My only concern with this application really was the very large easement, which would preclude being able to develop on a portion of that lot with a building. But of course, it could be used for green space and driveways. So having looked at it, having considered that we are to look at under a consent application and under a variance application, I am satisfied that these applications are appropriate, that they're suitable, that they meet all the conditions of the consent, subject to your standard conditions and subject to, of course, satisfying the easement, and that the variances are in keeping with other development in the area.
Okay, so it's a motion for all the three applications combined. Can I have a
Correct.
seconder, please? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yes, I second Member Macaulay's motion to sever as well as accept the variances subject to forestry, I think.
That is correct.
Through the chair, just for point of clarification, the urban forestry conditions will be
For the
applied to the consent only.
So consent approval, subject to conditions of urban forestry, and the associated minor variance applications do not have any conditions associated. Okay, so we had a motion on the floor by Member Macaulay, Member Nadini seconded it. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Members say that opposes the motion, however, the motion's carried and the application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, committee.
Okay. And then, last but not the least, item 23, 14 Glaive Drive. And this is a minor variance application. And we held it down because there was a report from community planning recommending refusal of a couple of variances. So we will hold this down and come back to it. So, coming to the first, so I just want to recap. So we have held item 18 and item 23. Okay. First item that was held, 5 Bonita Road, and can we have the agent with us, owner, Sam Midzi, please? Sam Midzi. Hello, Sam.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello. So thank you
Can you hear
for your patience in joining us this afternoon. Sir, we have your application for 5 Bonita Road. It is a consent application to create the lots, 2 residential lots, and each lot has the associated minor variance application as well. Would you like to make a presentation?
For the reason to build a house for himself and my daughter, like brothers and sister. I'm a builder for trade. I've been doing this for 50 years, JNS Construction. And before we bought the property, I got in touch with my surveyor and my architect. I said, can you check the area, see if there is lots at that caliber that we can sever? So they did check and they said, yes, there is. As a matter of fact, there's 2 lots right in front of my house on 28 Meadowvale, which they are 45 foot each. And there's a brand new house being built in the last 2 years. I said, great, let's go for it because we can do that. It's only about 150 feet away from 5 Bonita. And we put in the application to build it. And this is for my kids and for me because I'm my wife passed away 6 years ago with cancer and they want me close. And this is what we've been looking at. And finally, we found a piece of property that it's, for us to be real close so they can look after me. I'm 78 years old. I mean, I'm not, don't feel sorry for me. And, but anyways, the way it stands, there is a few lots around the area that they are 45 footers. We have put in a plan on the property that we're not touching, the bylaws at all. Like we got nothing to do with the bylaw because we are inside the bylaws, whatever it is, a 50-foot lot or 55 or whatever it is. That's great. The only thing that we're doing is building a smaller home, a little bit smaller than the regular homes, but they look beautiful, once they're finished. Because looking at the house across the street from me on 28 Meadowvale, which is 31 Meadowvale, is a 45-foot lot. And there's another one beside it, another 45 foot, which the owner is going to build sooner or later. And that is my biggest worry about, like saying that the houses are going to fit. Yes, they are going to fit. Is it going to look out of the ordinary on the street? No, they're not. They're beautiful little homes, they're beautiful homes at 2,700 square footers, which, they're normal size, good size. And we bought it for the simple reason is that the way the prices are in Toronto, very, very hard for my kids to buy a house. So I'm building it for them, my last project before I really, I'm at the age, retire, and that's it. So we can be real, real close. We're only about 150 feet away from each other. This is why we've done this. And, so it's really up to the committee, if you can help me out regarding this, again, they're not bad lots. They're not that small. We're gone according to the bylaws. The setbacks, the side backs, they're all according to bylaws. We're not changing the bylaw. On Juanita, there's no other property that you can sever it to make lots smaller. This is the only property going around on the north side. Apparently, it's beautiful. They're all brand new homes. There's no problem. On the south side, it's this property, which is 5 Bonita, plus another 2 or 3 further down. They're old houses, but they're all on 54 lots or 52. There's nothing that they can change. Nothing changes on that street. There's only these 2 lots. Again, 5 Bonita, which is close to the corner of Meadowvale and Lawrence. That's all I got to say. There's nothing else I can say. The houses are beautiful. The people are complaining that it's going to degrade their prices, which it's not. It's not. Definitely, it's not. They're beautiful homes that I'm going to be building on there to comply with the area.
Okay, well, thank you very
And I
much.
guess
Oh,
that's it.
I'm sorry, I didn't, I thought you had ended. My apologies.
No, it's pretty well ending, because there's nothing I can say. We're not changing the bylaws. We're not, it's up to the committee to help me out on this. That there's nothing that that degrades the houses that are there. Juanita is a beautiful street. Meadowville is a beautiful street. Lawrence and I've built about 40 houses around the area. Like Meadowville, Kingston Road, Lawson. As a matter of fact, talking about Lawson, they approved 2 houses they just finished building on 80-foot lot, like 40 foot each.
Okay, all right, perfect,
So,
thank you.
all right.
Well, thank you
Right.
very much, Sam, for taking the time and talking to us. Sounds like you're a great dad, and secondly, that it's good to see that you are within the confines or within the parameters of the bylaw, and you're trying to meet them as close as possible, except that I see that your minor variance applications are, as you rightfully pointed out, the lot frontage and the lot area, but except that, and I think there's one more as it relates to the FSI of the dwelling unit, but there are no other variances being sought for, like for overbuilding, for example, you're within the building, permitted building envelopes, you're meeting the setbacks, you're meeting the lot coverage, and so on and so forth. So it's good to see that. On that note, members of the committee, do you have any questions for Sam? I see none at this time, but maybe there will be as we continue to discuss. But maybe it's a good time to now move on to speaking with our neighbors. So Frances Macchione, is Frances with us? Perfect. Frances?
Sure, yes. Yes, hi there.
Hi there,
How are
Frances.
you? Yes.
Very well,
Can you hear
thank
me?
you. I can hear you very
Good, great.
well. Thank you very much for
Excellent.
joining, and you have 5 minutes, and your time starts now.
Okay, great. Thank you. I've listened to what Mr. Mitzi has to say, and that's quite admirable. I wish my dad could have bought me a house, actually. I lived on this street for approximately 20 years. In fact, I lived here as a kid in the late 80s, so I'm very familiar with this street and the neighborhood, which we quite like. And, as a married individual, we moved back to this street. So that's how much we like the neighborhood. In reviewing this application, I think this, and a lot of, I'm not speaking on behalf of my neighbors, but a lot of my neighbors have the same concerns. We have no idea what Mr. Mitzi had planned. All we know is that there were two houses going up with a property that was less than, 100 feet to sever into two properties. And we have an issue with that primarily because number one, it's going to compromise, the character of the neighborhood, right? Most of the whole neighborhood is at 50 feet in terms of frontage, and we're looking to set a precedent here that we don't like. Like there's other lots in the neighborhood, and they're larger lots with smaller bungalows on them, quite prime for picking for these builders to rebuild larger homes or subdivide those further. So we're worried that if we start setting this precedent of allowing for bylaw variances, then we're going to have densification on our street, and we really don't want that. I mean, there's really no need for that. And that's our those are our primary issues. So densification is not something we want. It's compromising the character of the neighborhood, and it's going to set a precedent. So those are our concerns. And I heard Mr. Mitzi say that he's in line with the bylaw, but how can that be if he's applying for a variance to the bylaw? So according to our calculations, the proposed lot area only satisfies about 45% of the required minimum 929 meters. So that's not.
So I can perhaps clarify. I think this is my understanding or observation from what I heard, Mr. Mitzi, was that he's complying with the building itself. Like, absolutely, you're right. He's coming
Yes.
forward with a consent, and he has associated minor variance
Yes.
application. But if you look at it, the variances are for
Yep.
the lot frontage and the lot area.
Right.
And then there's
Right.
one variance for the building. But as you probably know, and if you've been following us, this morning, afternoon, there's like a lot of regulations, You live on the street or on Meadowvale. Now, are
Yeah.
the,
No, I live on Bonita.
oh, sorry, you live on Bonita,
I
sorry.
live right across the street. I
My-
live right across the street from, yeah.
My apologies. Yes, you live on Fort Bonita. Now,
Yeah.
generally, the lot frontages are 45 feet or 50 feet along the street?
No, they're 50 feet.
Okay,
50
so,
feet.
so what Mr. Mitzi is asking for the lot frontage is 13.71 meters. And I'm not a metric person, so I did a calculation, and it's approximately 45 feet. Okay?
That's right.
So it's 5 feet shy of what is generally prevalent, as you mentioned, hence the variance for those two items only, or three items for each of those lots. Okay?
No,
Okay,
that's
so
fine. Yeah,
is
we
your, so
understand,
is
yeah.
your concern, when you mentioned densification or intensification, you're concerned with the lot creation, or your concern is with the severance? Because if the severance, let's say if committee approves it today, they would result in two
Yeah.
lots of 45
Correct.
feet frontage east.
Yeah, so
each.
now we have two homes instead of one and directly across from us. And what I'm saying is, so now you've got two for the price of one lot, right? And then that's going to set a precedent down the road. So the
Well,
whole street becomes,
the committee doesn't look at price, but what I'm saying is that
no,
it would be,
precedent.
more or less in line with 45 and 50 feet along the street. That's what I'm trying to flag for you, is that it would not be completely out of line if that goes forward. But again, we're only discussing right now. It's not my place to defend the application at this point.
Right.
We will go to Mr. Midzi, but I was just trying to help you understand that should this be approved, the lot frontages would be more or less in line with what's existing on the street, okay?
Right, but that's not what's existing on the street currently, right? They're 50 feet.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying, more or less. I'm not suggesting exactly, more or less, 45 feet, okay? So it's just semantics there. Anything else before you close?
That's it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Francis, for taking the time to speak with us. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Francis? I see none. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to our next speaker, Errol Popo. Errol, you with us?
I'm on mute.
No, we
Hello?
can hear you. We can hear you, sir. Go ahead. You have 5
Oh,
minutes.
hi. Oh, yeah. Hi. I'm actually neighbors with 5 Bonita, and I applied back in 2013. I had a lot size. I bought my neighbor's property, which was 135 feet by 100, and I went to the city and I asked about severing it into 3 lots, 45, 45, 45 by 100. I was told, no, the bylaw at that time, it's 59 feet, not 50, right? I had a neighbor who sent a letter to the city, and they denied me the 45. So I applied for 50 feet. I also was denied on the 50 feet. I had to hire a city planner. I went to the OMB, and then that's how I finally got the 50 foot. And in that time, I applied to get my real estate license, and then I did some research around the area, and 50 feet, which is across the street, was the minimum over there. So that's how I was able to get the 50-foot frontage. But I did apply for 45, and I would have had 3 houses. I built 2 houses, one on 50 foot, and the other one was on the 88 foot, which is the balance. My total lot frontage was 138. Sorry, not 135. And sorry, this is new for me. So anyways, I think that allowing the 44.5 is going to bring the value of the area down. And I myself, I mean, if this goes through, where does it stop? Because I have 38 feet there left over, because I built my second house on the 50-foot lot and left the 38 beside. So realistically, my neighbor has choices there's choices, to add, to buy some from me, or me buy from him. So for us to allow, houses that are the criteria of the city will be met.
So I can't help you with that, unfortunately, Errol, because that's not the committee's jurisdiction to advise on buying lands or assembling lands. We are only going to comment on what is before us, and I would be very happy if you can focus on the application before us today and advise of particular concerns with the variances and the consent. So I hear you have concerns with the consent, the way it's presented, right? That's what I'm getting out of this, what you have just mentioned, correct?
Yeah, well, I was just saying that it should be, if it's there's a possibility to meet the criteria of the city without without upsetting the other neighbors, because I believe there's like 7 neighbors here that are opposed to the severance of the lot, right? I mean, based on what you guys have received.
I'm sure there are ways to do that, but we're not here to discuss what those other solutions could be. We're here to look at the application that's before us today, and our mandate is to look at this application only the way it's presented. You're right, there may be ways to help mitigate some of the issues or make the variances less, or even remove them. I'm not sure. I'm not here to look at that
Well,
option.
the lot size is supposed to be 59 by 100. That's the bylaw, not 50. 50 was just given to me because it didn't change the bylaw. And to my understanding, it wasn't changed. It was just I applied for the 50, so I got a severance
Understood.
of a 50-foot lot.
And that's what the
The
variance
bylaw
is.
is actually
Yeah,
59, right? Is
that
it
is
not correct?
correct.
59 is what, right? So it's 59 by 100, and this person is applying for 44 by 100, correct?
That is correct, and this is what the
Is that
variance
correct?
is
Right.
before us today.
So we're not looking at 50 as a
No.
standard. The standard is 59,
We're not
right?
looking
So
at,
I wouldn't consider that a minor variance, right?
okay,
I would consider it a major variance.
okay.
I mean, I don't know. That's from my understanding is that's what it would be considered a major variance.
Understood. You
At
make a good
59.
point.
But
No,
50 is not the minimum. 50 was just, I was granted 50 when I applied it. But like I said, I had to go to the OMB to get that.
understood. Understood. No, I certainly hear your point. You're absolutely right. The variance is for the 59 versus 50, which may be there, but it's not because the bylaw permits it. But you're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 59 versus 44.
Okay. Understood.
50. He's not applying for 50. He's only applying for 44.
All right, Errol. Well, thank you very much for flagging that for us. I am going to now ask the committee members, and I see Member Macaulay asking with her hand up. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions for, I guess, Errol. You own the property adjacent to this application?
Correct.
And did you say you owned 2 properties at one time there, or just one?
I own 2. So I own 15. What I purchased was 15 Bonita, and I lived at 21 Bonita.
Okay, and
Because-
21 Bonita then is a 50-foot frontage that you got through a Committee of Adjustment variance?
No, 21 is my 15 is 50. It goes the house.
I'm looking at the addresses.
Okay, yeah. So the addresses go 5, 17, 19, 21. Now I lived at 21. I applied for the variance for 15, and I got it into 2, 17 and 19.
Okay, and 17 Bonita is not your property.
It is. I'm living there now. 19 is not my property anymore. So I'm right beside, yeah, that's my house, the end one there with the minivan.
Yes, and with the very wide
Right, that's 38 feet,
yard.
38 feet across. Yes,
Okay. And how wide is your property there?
38. My whole property is 88.
Okay, all right. So if the zoning that we're in for the other ones where it's 50, you have, I'm just doing the math, you have 38 additional feet.
Right.
Okay. Did you discuss with your adjacent neighbor any of these issues?
Yes, when he first purchased the property, and then last year his agent came and talked to me about it.
And presumably you couldn't come to any resolution as to hiring additional feet from you?
Well, it was him or me. I mean, I had 38. I needed 12. He needs 11.
I think, Member
Okay.
Macaulay, we
All
should
right.
refrain from
I
talking
think
about
that's
that.
enough.
Yeah, I think we may, we should be cautious when we're talking about real estate stuff. We're not talking about real estate, we're talking about the application before us, you know. Let's stick to what is before us today. Okay, thank you very much, Errol, for taking the time to meet with us. Can I have Mr. Midzi again, please? Hello, Sam?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, sir.
No. Okay. And regarding my neighbor, when before, like, I mean, I'm sorry that you don't want to talk about, you know, real estate and all that, but I got to put in my 2 cents worth. My 2 cents worth is the previous owner had a deal with the neighbor to buy the 12 feet. And he actually paid for the surveyor to take the 12 feet. Now, the previous owner, he couldn't hold the property because they were going to do power sale on it. And automatically, the gentleman there offered $90,000 for the 12 feet, I guess. But this is what was told by the previous owner. He waited 8 months for something to come up. Nothing came up. The man was going to lose his property, so he put it up for sale. And that's when I stepped in, you know, to buy the property and get rid of all that. There was work orders on the property. There was 8 young people living in there. It was kind of chaos for the man. He says, I can't keep the house anymore. I got to get rid of it because I'm going to lose it. And this is when I bought it. He put it on the market, and this is when I bought it. The thing about the salesman going in, I don't know anything about it, to tell you the truth. The salesmen are like that. They, you know, they go behind you to do whatever. And that's it. That's all I got to say regarding that.
Okay, so
It's not, you know,
although it's not our area, but I would say.
it's not your, like I said, I'm sorry. I just had to put that in.
Okay, perfect. So now you have heard the concerns from the neighbors regarding the consent, and they have concerns with, you know, lot frontage that doesn't comply. It's 59
Right.
feet versus 45 feet. How would you
Right.
respond to it?
Well, I respond is that the house is going to be built according to the bylaws. Like, in other words, if the setback is 4 feet, it's there. If it's 3 feet, it's there. I'm not changing any laws at all.
Except
This is why we're going
one,
in,
except one, Mr.
except
Mitzi.
one,
Yes, except the square footage, the FSI.
the square foot, the frontage, not,
No,
like,
no, no,
and
no,
plus the square footage.
no, not the frontage. So we have 3 variances. One is the
I
frontage.
see, okay,
One is the
right,
frontage, one is the lot
mhm,
area, and the other is the
right,
FSI, the maximum floor space index. Okay?
I see, okay,
Yeah, we have
right.
three variances.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes, and I agree with that.
Okay,
And what the neighbor is saying, that it's gonna degrade the price on the property, like when you build these houses, I think that's far-fetched, because when I build houses and I have separate lands, you know, properties like that, all it does is increase properties on the neighbors.
understood. Okay, members of the committee, do you have questions for Mr. Mitzi? Okay, I see none. All right, Mr. Mitzi, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. And any closing remarks before we go into committee?
Well, my daughter wants to say a couple of words, if it's possible.
We do not
There
allow
is
that.
one here.
We don't allow that because she's not the registered speaker here. Okay, all right. Thank you very
All
much
right,
for
that's-
understanding. We are into committee now. So committee members, you heard the owner and you also heard the neighbors. Do you have any questions or comments or matters that you wish to discuss? I see none. All right. If there aren't any, then can I please have a motion on the consent application? And I do note that there are conditions of urban forestry, and that's about it. So, motion, please, if there are no comments.
Madam Chair, I had some comments.
Oh, okay, please go ahead.
Okay. This is a part of Scarborough. And I went down that area and took a look at the street pattern, which is what I normally am doing, especially when we have a consent application.
Mhm.
Number 5, Bonita, is a very large lot, and it's probably the largest lot on all of Bonita in terms of frontage. I'm not talking about the lot area. We're really, the
Right,
only issue we're dealing with is frontage.
correct.
On the north side of Bonita, it appears to be clear that everything is a 50-foot lot, and it's all reasonably new development. It's not an area that's going to go into redevelopment. On the south side of Bonita, there are 3 lots. This one close to Meadowvale, and 2 lots about 3/4 of the way down. So the issue here is, do we want to keep this lot at 18 meters, or is it satisfactory to go to 18 meters, which is 60 feet, or is it satisfactory to go to 45 feet, knowing that the lots on the north side are 50 feet, and knowing that there is little or no opportunity for additional lot creation immediately in that area? And that's really what I am kind of struggling with. That was why I looked at the adjacent lot, because it's fairly clear he's not using the entire lot, but it may be that he never wants to sell it. He may like that size of a lot. And I don't see that this consent application, if granted, would really set a precedent for the area. I think the precedent's already been already there.
Right.
And I don't see that it's going to impact the area. So those are my comments. I'd be interested in hearing what anyone else has to say on this matter.
Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Member McCauley. I really appreciate your comments on that, because it's coming from a place of expertise. So I really appreciate that. I'm thinking that if we ended up leaving the lot as is, to me, it stands out as a bit of an eyesore, especially since, we've got other new developments at 50 foot, and this committee is around minor variances and the permission of variances. And so when we look at 45 versus 50, to me, that seems minor. So that's just my comments. I feel that I can support this application in the way that it's being presented, and with respect to the reasons also behind it, which, is very altruistic of the applicant, but that's not swaying my decision. Even though I do feel very sorry for the loss of his wife as well. So that's just my comments. It's really strictly on the application and the variances itself. And from my perspective, I don't see this as being, major.
Thank you very much, Member Nadini, and I do echo your comments. I also echo Member McCauley's comments, and I would like to add that the way the lot stands today, it's underutilization of the lot, as opposed to now if you sever this and you can create 2 lots and 2 more housing options, or 1 additional housing option for a city that's already struggling with housing shortage. So in my opinion, this is an application that represents good planning as well, and it meets the intent of the provincial direction as well. Not that it is something that we look at for the purposes of our committee, but sort of in the bigger picture as well. I think it fills in that gap quite well. It is not overdevelopment. We're lucky we're not seeing 3 lots being created out of these 2, of this one, and it is fairly modest intensification, and in particular that it's adjacent to Meadowvale Road, which I'm not sure if it's an arterial, but it's definitely a busy collector in that location. So it sort of feeds into or it meets or addresses all of the check boxes of the the provincial direction related to intensification and housing as well. On that note, if there are no comments, are we prepared with a motion? Member Nadini, please go ahead.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, and with all of the eloquent, explanations you've provided, I'd like to echo that, and I would put forward a motion with respect to both the consent and severance, the severance as consent to sever, as well as the variances of the 2 lots. I'll put forward a motion to approve this and make it subject to forestry.
Thank you very much, Member Nadini, and may I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay?
Madam Chair, I will second that motion. I believe we'd also have to add conditions of development engineering to the consent application. They're standard conditions.
There were no conditions of engineering, Member Macaulay, but we do have the standard conditions, which is implied anyways. Okay, so there were no conditions of engineering and it was only the urban forestry. Okay. And just, sorry, I may have been distracted for a moment. This is for consent only or for all the three applications?
For both consent as well as the variances.
Perfect.
So that's 3 applications.
Perfect. Thank you, Member Nadini. So Member Nadini put forward the motion to approve all the applications subject to conditions of urban forestry for the consent application. Member Macaulay seconded the motion, and all in favor of this motion. The motion is carried unanimously and the applications have been approved. Thank you. Okay, and that brings us to the last item on the agenda for today, and that is 14 Glaive Avenue. And this application was held because we had a staff report from community planning with a differing opinion. So can we have the applicant, Antonio Giovinazzo, please? Hello, Antonio.
Yes, speaking, Madam Chair.
Last but not the least, but very important one, and thank you for all the patience since this morning. It was a long day, I'm sure for you as well. So we have your application before us. You've read the community planning staff report. What are your thoughts, or do you have a presentation that you would like to share with us?
Yes, I have a presentation that I'd like to go over.
Okay, and has that been submitted to staff in advance?
Yes, that was.
Okay, all right. Would you like us to bring that on the screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, so staff is bringing it up on the screen. There you go.
Great, thank you.
Please go ahead, and you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for listening. So 14 Glaive, I'd like to call into question the variance that planning has taken a stance against, and that is the setback on the right side of the property. And we did a little bit of surveying of the area to see if this was out of the ordinary, if we were building contrary to what the neighborhood is already showing us. And when we did this survey, we noted that there were many homes within a 150-meter radius of the property that attributed these close setbacks that we are trying to achieve with this building. So in that 150-meter radius, we surveyed approximately 77 properties. And of those 77 properties, 14 properties are more of a setback. So they're a greater setback than what we are proposing on that garage side. As well, on top of that, another 7 properties aren't the exact same amount that we are proposing, but they are close to it and similar to the setbacks and the width that we are proposing on that lot, as noted in the table on page 2 that's shown there. Thank you for that. As well, when we were reviewing this application and putting together the design, going through design development with the client and the builder, we did notice that there's an exception bylaw that comes into play with that right-hand setback. And that is limiting us to the existing setback, and any more that we push would require a minor variance. Whereas if we were to eliminate the existing building and build brand new, that exception is no longer required, and we would only be required to have a 0.9 meter setback on that right-hand side. So we are asking for a relief for these items of zoning. We think it is in lieu with the rest of the neighborhood, and it won't change the view of the neighborhood. And if you're looking at those major properties that we do feel attribute the same qualities that we're trying to go forward with, that would be 26 Glaive Drive, 100 and 102 Glaive Valley Road, 59, 57, and 53 Lewiston Road, and that's all within the same block. And we'd like to also call into question house number 57 on Lewiston Road, which is directly behind that is a two-story lot that takes up much more of that lot than we are proposing on ours. So we leave this to your opinion now. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Antonio. So in terms of the community planning staff report, it appears that they do not agree with the variance number 2 and 4, which you've kind of touched upon, but I'm assuming you've had discussions with community planning staff, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and it appears that it didn't pan out the way you had expected it to be.
No.
Okay, all right. Members of the committee, over to you now. Questions or comments? Member Said, you can go ahead, please.
Mr. Antonio, you just mentioned that you have a discussion with the community planning about these two variances, which they are recommending refusal. I'm just curious, like what your discussion was for the variance number 4, which appears to me very minor. You could have been adjusted to that and to withdraw that, just making a very slight changes. So what is the hurdle there with this minor number?
So for number 4, they rejected that because number 2 was being rejected. That is where the garage is located, and that setback determines the width of the interior of the garage, i.e. the parking space. So because they were rejecting item number 2 in lieu of rejecting item number 2, they were rejecting item number 4.
So essentially, the variance number 4 is sort of by extension of variance number 2. So if the reduction in the side yard is not approved or is not appropriate, then by virtue of that, the narrow parking space would also not be appropriate. That's sort of the connection there.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Any other comment or question? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I think I largely accept responsibility for causing this deferral in the first place. And I still have a problem understanding variance 2. The south side lot line, this house is oriented north-south. The south side lot line faces the street. I believe variance 2 refers to the east side lot line. I'm looking at the survey. I know I'm right. You're proposing a 0.438 meter side yard lot line on the east side.
Correct.
Yes. And it says south side.
Oh, okay. That's a good catch.
To further impress upon or reinforce my point, I cannot believe that a conventional side lot line in any zoning bylaw in this country is 3.52 meters. That's 12 feet. So I still believe variance number 2 is misstated.
You raise a good point, and I also noticed that there was a waiver and not a zoning certificate done. So maybe, Antonio, can you clarify that, please, for us? So first of all, the south is not the south that's being referred to in variance number 2. As Member Taylor rightfully pointed out, it is the east side. If both me and him have our north-souths correct, I think that is the east side, the interior side yard there. And then why, are you sure that the required is 3.52? That's the question.
Yes, so that 3.52 and that north-south, that terminology was taken from the preliminary project review that we received. So that was taken from there, the north-south. Maybe that was mistaken on there, and the planner, instead of saying east-west and that north-south, but it's clear that it's the east-west setbacks that we're talking about here. With regards to the 12-foot setback, yes, of course, if you go throughout the country, I'm sure there is a 12-foot setback if we get to Northern Ontario. But in Toronto here, the exemption that's coming up there is, I'll read it here, it's 10.5.47.1. and it says the required minimum building setback from a side lot line for any addition or extension to the rear or side of a lawfully existing building or structure must be the minimum side yard setback permitted by 10.540.7.1. And if you go to 10.540.71.1, there it states that the minimum side yard setback is what is existing. So that is why it is not allowed to be enlarged. So that's why I referred to in my opening comments, I said if we did tear down the building, our required setback would be 0.9 meters, and we're requesting a setback of 0.44 meters. Because we are keeping the existing dwelling and adding on to it, it's a good dwelling with good bones. There's no need to tear it down. That's why this setback and this bylaw comes into play.
Ah, makes sense now. Okay. So it reverts you back to the existing situation and hence 3.5. Okay. As opposed to if you were to tear down and rebuild, you would be required 0.9 for a new condition. Understood. So does that clarify, Member Taylor?
It certainly does. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So on that, any more question or clarification? I see none. Okay. So just again, pulling up the plan here, the reduction in the side yard on the east side is 0.438 at its narrowest, and it is a proposed garage. So as Kelly is pulling it up on the screen, it is for the proposed garage and not for the entirety of the building. Should committee wish to proceed with an approval, we can always have the option to tie it to the plan. But I'm in committee's hand right now for a motion. The neighbors are very happy on the east side. There's a letter of support from them as well, that they're sort of, caring for the neighbors and closing that. Yes, Member Taylor.
Yes, Madam Chair, I find the variances to be in keeping with the four tests under the Planning Act. And I move approval subject to Community Planning's recommendation number 2, which is that the owner shall build substantially in accordance, etc.
All right, may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion.
And all in favor of this motion? The motion is carried unanimously and the application is approved. Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of the agenda, and do we have any other business? Member?
Through the chair, I just want to point out that there were two TLAB decisions that were issued since our last hearing. The first one is for, just one moment here.
10 Panera Street.
Yeah, 10 Panera Street, which for the YouTube viewers is, or it was originally, it was a minor variant, consent of 2 minor variance applications, originally refused by the Committee of Adjustment and appealed by the applicant. The TLAB rendered a decision allowing the appeal, and the consent and variances are authorized on condition. The second TLAB decision, an order, was for 1882 Lawrence Avenue East. It was a minor variance application, originally approved by Committee of Adjustment and appealed by the City of Toronto. The appeal is allowed subject to conditions.
Yeah, the second one was quite interesting to read. Okay, all right, thank you. Any other business, members of the committee? I see none, all right, and I think if there is nothing else, the date of the next hearing is September 15th. If there's nothing there, I thank Member Nadini for joining us today and helping us out with our hearing. Appreciate your time. It was certainly a great day today with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Same here. It was really a pleasure working with all of you and the city staff, planning teams as well.
Excellent.
So,
All right.
Thank you. I think you're a great team in Scarborough.
Thanks a lot, Member D.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. A motion to adjourn the meeting? I put forward the motion to, Member Taylor puts it forward. I seconded. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.